being told your whole life that you think too much, that you need to relax, that you're being irrational, that your mind is your worst enemy. But what if I told you that everything you've been told about overthinking is backwards? What if the very thing you've been shamed for, your relentless, exhausting tendency to analyze, dissect, and question everything, is actually the key to a level of intelligence most people will never reach? Carl Jung once said, "Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge, because while the rest of the world is content to accept reality at face value, to move through life on autopilot, repeating patterns they've never questioned, you are doing something most people are incapable of. You're thinking, really thinking, and that terrifies them, so they label you anxious, neurotic, too sensitive, too complicated." But here's what they don't understand, what they can't understand. Those labels aren't insults. They're proof that your mind operates on a level most people will never access. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you why overthinkers aren't broken, why your mind isn't sabotaging you, and why the world needs people like you now more than ever. But more importantly, I'm going to show you how to stop seeing your overthinking as a curse and start using it as the superpower it actually is. Because the truth is this: overthinkers aren't weak, they're not confused, they're not lost. They're just awake in a world that's still asleep. Let's start with the lie. The story society has been selling you since childhood. The narrative that says thinking too much is a problem, that rumination is weakness, that analysis is paralysis. You've heard it 1,000 times. Stop overthinking. Just let it go. Don't worry so much. Live in the moment, as if consciousness itself were a disease, as if awareness were a disorder. And you've tried, haven't you? You've tried to quiet your mind, to stop the endless spiral of thoughts, to be more like them, the people who seem so effortlessly carefree, who make decisions without hesitation, who sleep peacefully at night without replaying every conversation, every choice, every mistake. But you can't. No matter how hard you try, your mind refuses to shut off. It keeps asking questions, seeking patterns, making connections, predicting outcomes. And every time it does, you feel a pang of guilt, a sense that something is wrong with you. This is the illusion, the belief that your mind is malfunctioning, that your depth is dysfunction, that your awareness is anxiety. But here's what you need to understand. The reason you overthink isn't because you're broken. It's because you're more conscious than most people around you. And consciousness, real consciousness, comes with a price. Jung called this the burden of consciousness. He understood that awareness isn't free, that the more you see, the more you feel. The more you understand, the heavier the weight you carry. Because once you've seen the truth about yourself, about others, about the world, you can never unsee it. And that's what makes overthinkers different. You don't have the luxury of ignorance. You can't just not think about it. You can't pretend everything is fine when you can see the cracks in the foundation. You can't ignore the contradictions, the inconsistencies, the hidden motives, the unspoken truths. Your mind won't let you, and the world punishes you for it. So why do some people overthink while others don't? Why are you wired this way? The answer lies in neuroscience, psychology, and evolutionary biology. But let's start with the brain itself. Overthinkers have what researchers call a highly active default mode network. This is the part of your brain that's responsible for self-referential thinking, imagination, planning, and reflection. In most people, this network quiets down during focused tasks, but in overthinkers, it stays active, constantly churning, constantly processing. Studies have shown that people who overthink have stronger connections between the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning and decision-making, and the amygdala, which processes emotions. This means your thoughts and your feelings are more deeply intertwined. You don't just think about things, you feel them deeply. And this isn't a bug, it's a feature, because this heightened connectivity gives you something most people don't have: the ability to simulate the future, to run mental scenarios, to anticipate consequences, to prepare for outcomes before they happen. You're not just living in the present moment, you're living in 10 possible futures simultaneously. And yes, that's exhausting, but it's also genius. Psychologists call this prospective cognition, the ability to imagine future events with vivid detail. And research shows that people with high levels of prospective cognition are better problem solvers, more creative, and more empathetic. Why? Because to overthink is to practice empathy. Every time you replay a conversation, you're trying to understand the other person's perspective. Every time you worry about how your words affected someone, you're demonstrating emotional intelligence. Every time you analyze your own behavior, you're engaging in self-awareness. This is what most people miss. They think overthinking is narcissistic, self-absorbed, but it's the opposite. Overthinkers are often the most attuned to others, the most considerate, the most conscious of their impact. And this brings us to Jung's concept of the introverted intuitive. Jung identified this as one of the rarest psychological types, people whose primary mode of perception is internal and intuitive. They don't just observe the external world, they process it through layers of meaning, symbolism, and possibility. Sound familiar? Introverted intuitives are natural overthinkers, but Jung didn't see this as pathology. He saw it as depth, as access to the collective unconscious, as connection to archetypal truths that most people never touch. In other words, your overthinking isn't a disorder, it's a doorway. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because if overthinking is actually a sign of intelligence, why does it feel so bad? Why does it cause so much anxiety, so much exhaustion, so much suffering? The answer is this: because you've been using your gift wrong. See, overthinking becomes destructive when it's fueled by fear instead of curiosity, when it's driven by self-doubt instead of self-awareness, when it's a loop instead of a spiral. Let me explain. There are two types of overthinking: productive and unproductive. Productive overthinking is what happens when your mind is genuinely trying to solve a problem, understand a concept, or prepare for a challenge. It's analytical, it's purposeful, it leads somewhere. This is the kind of thinking that produces innovation, art, philosophy, science. This is Einstein lying awake at night, imagining riding a beam of light. This is Jung spending decades mapping the human psyche. This is every great thinker in history wrestling with questions that had no easy answers. Unproductive overthinking, on the other hand, is what happens when your mind is stuck in a loop, replaying the same scenario over and over, asking questions that have no answers, worrying about outcomes you can't control. This isn't analysis, it's anxiety. This isn't preparation, it's paralysis. And here's the key. Most overthinkers don't realize they're capable of both. They've conflated the two. They think all overthinking is bad because they've only experienced the unproductive kind. But productive overthinking is different. It doesn't drain you, it energizes you. It doesn't trap you, it liberates you. It doesn't make you feel stuck, it makes you feel alive. And the only difference between the two is direction. Productive overthinking has a target, a question you're genuinely trying to answer, a problem you're genuinely trying to solve. Unproductive overthinking has no target. It's circular, it's self-referential, it feeds on itself. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." In other words, if your thinking has purpose, if it's directed towards something meaningful, it becomes strength. But if it's just spinning in place, it becomes torture. So the question isn't, how do I stop overthinking? The question is, how do I direct my thinking towards something that matters? All right? So you're an overthinker. Your mind is powerful, complex, and exhausting. You've been told it's a weakness, but now you're beginning to see it's actually a strength. So what do you do with it? Here's how you turn overthinking from a curse into a superpower. Step 1. Recognize the pattern. The first step is awareness. You need to catch yourself in the act. When you notice your mind spiraling, pause. Don't judge it, don't fight it, just observe. Ask yourself, is this productive or unproductive? Am I solving a problem or am I stuck in a loop? If you're stuck in a loop, acknowledge it. Say it out loud if you have to. I'm overthinking. And this isn't helping. That simple act of recognition interrupts the pattern. Step 2. Redirect your focus. Once you've identified unproductive overthinking, you need to redirect it. Give your mind something to do, a real problem to solve, a real question to answer. This is where journaling becomes essential. Write down the thought that's looping. Then ask yourself, what's the real question here? What am I actually afraid of? What do I need to understand? Often, you'll find that the surface-level worry is masking a deeper fear. And once you identify that deeper fear, you can address it directly instead of spiraling around it. Step 3. Channel your energy into creation. This is the most important step. Overthinkers are natural creators. Your mind is constantly generating ideas, connections, insights. But if you don't give those thoughts an outlet, they fester. So create something, write, draw, build. Code, compose, design, teach, share. Your overthinking is your raw material. Your art is your processing system. And when you channel your mental energy into creation, something miraculous happens. The anxiety transforms into meaning. Jung said, the creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct. In other words, your overthinking becomes genius when you give it permission to play, to experiment, to create without judgment. Step 4. Embrace your depth. Here's what most people will never understand. Your overthinking is a reflection of your depth. And depth is rare. It's valuable. It's needed. Yes, it means you won't fit in easily. Yes, it means small talk will exhaust you. Yes, it means you'll often feel alone in a room full of people. But it also means you'll see things others miss. You'll feel things others can't. You'll understand truths others avoid. And the world desperately needs people who think deeply, who question everything, who refuse to accept easy answers. So stop apologizing for your complexity. Stop trying to be simpler. Stop dumbing yourself down to make others comfortable. Own your depth, because that's where your power lives. Step 5. Build your tribe. Finally, you need to find your people, other overthinkers, other deep thinkers, other souls who understand that consciousness isn't a disease, it's a gift. Because here's the truth, you're not alone. There are millions of people like you, people who feel too much, think too much, see too much, and when you find them, something clicks. You realize you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're just surrounded by people who can't understand you. So seek them out, online, in books, in philosophy groups, in creative communities. Find the people who celebrate your mind instead of fearing it. Because when you're surrounded by people who get you, your overthinking stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a superpower. Let's bring this home. We're living in a world that's moving faster than ever, where information is instant, where decisions are made in seconds, where everyone is racing toward the next thing without stopping to think about why. And in that world, overthinkers are the brake pedal, the pause button, the voice that says, wait. Let's think about this. You're the ones who ask the questions no one else is asking, who see the consequences no one else is seeing, who feel the weight of decisions that others make lightly. And yes, that's heavy, but it's also heroic. Because without overthinkers, humanity would be on autopilot. We'd repeat the same mistakes, follow the same patterns, never question, never grow, never evolve. Overthinkers are the philosophers, the artists, the scientists, the innovators, the truth-tellers. The ones who refuse to accept the world as it is and dare to imagine what it could be. So if you're an overthinker, know this: you're not too much, you're not broken, you're not weak. You're awake, and the world needs you to stay that way. So here's what I want you to do right now. In this moment, stop fighting your mind, stop wishing you were different. Stop apologizing for your depth. Instead, ask yourself one question: what would I create if I trusted my overthinking instead of fearing it? Because that's the question that changes everything. Your overthinking isn't the problem. It never was. The problem is that you've been taught to see it as a curse instead of recognizing it as the gift it is. So take that gift, use it, channel it, create with it, and watch what happens when you stop trying to be like everyone else and start becoming fully, unapologetically yourself. If this video resonated with you, subscribe to this channel, because we're just getting started. And next, I'm going to show you what happens when you finally stop people-pleasing and start protecting your energy, and why that one shift will change every relationship in your life. But for now, leave a comment and tell me, I'm an overthinker and I'm done apologizing for it. Because the world doesn't need you to be simpler. It needs you to be exactly who you are. And that's more than enough.